What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Dead Red Podcast. I am Big Blue in the Bronx, of course, and that is Sox Arizona. We're back for another podcast after 2 weeks, or actually after a week off. Was on vacation, but excited because at the time that we had our first episode, baseball just came to fruition. The deal was done, but we didn't have any off-season moves yet. And obviously, just to headline it before we get right into the things, my team disappointed, like usual. You know, I didn't expect anything big. Sox, obviously, your team made a move. If you want to just give your thoughts on what the Red Sox have done, maybe just a little summary overall.
Well, and thank you guys. Welcome to episode 2 of the Dead Red Podcast. Yeah, like you said, one team made big moves, one team didn't make as many moves, but we got Trevor Story for 6 years, $140 million. I'm really excited for the Red Sox to finally have possibly a solid second baseman. There's a lot of talk about where he's going to play, but it looks like he's going to play second base for us. He was having arm issues in Colorado, and now it's going to be good for him to just be able to throw the ball way shorter every single time. We're going to keep Xander at second. Rafi's going to play third, and it looks like we finally have an infield. So super excited about that. It's a lot of money, but I think his swing is going to fit well in Fenway, and I think he's going to hit a lot of bombs for us. And I'm super excited for it. So I couldn't be happier.
Shout outs to Daniel Berry, Rams official 22 champs in the chat. What's going on, my man?
What's up, man?
Shout outs to the people in the chat as well. Listen, if you haven't already subscribed to both channels, go Dodgers. Dodgers fan. If the Yankees didn't exist, the Dodgers would be my second favorite team. I mean, obviously they played in Brooklyn, so there's a little thing there, but I just never had a problem with the Dodgers. I honestly have never had a problem with the Dodgers. Obviously, once again, drop questions in the chat. That's how we're going to get through this podcast. It's going to make it more fun. Now, I am going to start by a couple of things here. We kind of discussed a little bit of the rules last time, and this is one that we really didn't want to come back, and it was done by the MLB and the MLBPA. The Ghost Runner's back, and I'm not happy about it. Sox, how do you feel?
I'm not happy about it either. I think there's probably a lot of outcry from the younger generation and you know what? I think the players and coaches liked it a lot too. I heard a lot of people talking about that in the Red Sox broadcast. And the truth of the matter is, you have a lot of old guys calling games, and they love getting home early, especially when they're on road trips and stuff like that. The guys love getting off early, so I can see how it's good for the guy's health and the sleep and all that stuff, being a long season with 162 games. But to me, it takes away from the authenticity of the game, like we talked about last 2 weeks ago. I'm not a big fan at all.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either. And, you know, obviously you got homers like John Heyman, who does the MLB, you know, cheering it on. Yeah, like shut the fuck up. You know,
right.
I once again, we discussed it like 2 weeks ago. That's not what the MLB should be targeting. And yes, you know, for, you know, different things, it could be okay. And I understand, once again, it's also a pace of play thing, and the managers and the players seem to like it for getting off early. But it's just not natural. It's not natural. Like, I could live with the DH rule on both sides. You know, there's going to be more offense. It's not just going to be an automatic out at the bottom of the lineup. But I just dislike it a lot. I'm going to go through some comments here. Story, a good fit for Boston. Shouts to MH, who is a Mets-Knicks fan. He's also a Giants fan as well. Red Sox, no good signings. I guess you don't like the Story signing for the Sox, MH. I mean, then again, you and Sox fans always team up to say that the Yankees suck. By the way, I will be going to opening day. By the way, I've got that arranged. Section 235. Tickets for about $103 each, which isn't too bad, but it's Yankee Stadium, so you will be spending money either way. I'm sure that Sox will be calling the game on his channel, and we'll maybe,
yes, sir.
Maybe try to get a guest on or two. Maybe I'll pop in at one time, maybe in between, and you know, just describe how it is at the stadium. He goes, "I'm joking. I love the signing." but the last time that I went to opening day was 2016. I remember, I think we just got Starlin Castro. Was either the year before maybe, because 2015 I didn't go to a Yankees game at all, but 2014 I did, and 2013 I did, 2012 I did, but it was against the Astros, and there was this one controversial play where Carlos Correa hit a chopper up the line, and Dylan Betances tried throwing it to, I believe it was Mark Teixeira at the time, and the problem is that the umpires didn't see it, and Joe Girardi protested the game, but Carlos Correa was inside on the grass, so they called him safe. They didn't call him out, and Joe Girardi was basically pissed about that. I mean, that's not the reason we lost the game. I mean, yeah, it did untie the game, but there was a lot of other things as well. It was also freezing hella cold that day, so hopefully it's not that way in the Bronx when I go.
That's interesting. I've been to opening day. I was at opening day in Arizona when the Sox were there. It was the Diamondbacks home opener. The Sox, I believe it was 2017. But the Sox had started on the West Coast. Opening day was in Seattle that year for us. And I lived in Arizona at the time, so I went and saw them all 3 nights in Phoenix. The biggest play I remember from that game or that series completely, it was cool to see David Price on the mound. And then it was cool to see Mookie Betts gun somebody out. We had like almost third row tickets in right field. Mookie Betts gunned out, I believe. I forgot who it was. I think it was their catcher, but gunned him out at home plate. Mookie Betts ends up leaving that year, I believe, a year after. But yeah, opening day is the best. The stadium's always filled. There was a flyover with the Jets. We're April 7th, man. We're close.
Yeah, 2 weeks away from today. 2 weeks away from today, believe it or not.
What's up, Tony Clark?
Shouts to Tony Clark in the chat as well. I thought the Yanks would get Correa. That wasn't my prediction. I feel like I had a couple of predictions. I'm not going to lie. I had a couple of predictions on free agents for NYY News TV. We Pete, our guy, he put up a whole graphic out and said, look, these are the guys' predictions we want. I got one of them right, and I'll read them down. Do I still have it? Yes, I do. So I had Chris Bryant going to the Mariners. Obviously, he went to the Rockies, and they just pulled off a trade today, getting Randall Grichuk from the Blue Jays, which I kind of was surprised in. But I had Kershaw going to the Rangers because he is from Texas, and it just wasn't so sure that he would sign back with the Dodgers. I had Freeman coming to the Yankees. Boy, did I strike out on that one. They re-signed Rizzo. And I had Rizzo going to the Braves because I feel like the Braves would go a cheaper option. Obviously, they traded King's Ransom for Matt Olson. Carlos Rodon, I had him going to the wrong San team. I had him going to the Padres. And he went to the Giants. Kenley Jansen, I had going to the Phillies. He went to the Braves as well, but obviously I said that because the Phillies need tons of bullpen help. I had Correa going to the Cubs because there seemed to be some interest there. I had Trevor Story going to the Astros. And let me go over my next one before I go on the one I got right. I had Kyle Schwarber making his way back to Boston. And then for the one I got right,
that one too.
And then the one I got right, I had Nick Castellanos going to the Phillies. And their outfield looks good, just defense, it doesn't look good as of right now. So they got Harper, they got Schwarber, and they got Castellanos. So, I mean, Schwarber's going to play DH there. I mean, he's not going to play left field in whatever position he can play. I want to ask you about this, and then we could go into somebody who actually played for both of our teams. We'll talk about it in a second. So the MLB, I don't know if they officially added it yet. And I don't like this personally. I think it's just another gimmick. Maybe some people see it as, okay, it's fun. It's just the All-Star game. And obviously we know how we feel about other All-Star games. The MLB All-Star game seems to be the realest one out there. The NFL Pro Bowl, it's a fucking joke. The NBA, it's a joke too. The MLB is trying to get a new rule in that if the All-Star game goes into extra innings, it prompts a home run derby. And whoever wins a home run derby wins. And my thing is this. Why are we having an extra home run derby if we already have one? And here's the thing, though, as well. Just like you have, people going for the drills and the Pro Bowl and the dunk contest in the NBA, how many players actually participate in the home run derby? I mean, what was it? A few years ago, Aaron Judge won. And then he said, you know what, whatever, he screwed up his swing, whatever the case may be. And You know what? I
don't think a
think
lot
I
of
totally
guys
agree with
even want to be in the home run derby. To be honest with you, I think it's a lot of pressure. I think it's a lot harder than it seems, and maybe it does mess up your swing. But it's like the you bring up a good point with the NBA, like the dunk contest. The biggest stars usually aren't even in the dunk contest. When has LeBron James ever competed in an NBA dunk contest? Like these guys don't compete, and I don't blame them. You know, like I don't see why you want to take away extra innings is when the game gets most exciting. If you don't agree, nothing
No,
like
I
a
agree,
bottom of the 10th, a
definitely.
game, a tie game. Why would you take away from that? That doesn't make any sense. You already have a whole night dedicated to the home run derby.
Exactly. I'm gonna get to a couple of comments in a second, and I'm just getting PTSD because last year when the Yankees had their opening day and we streamed it on the channel, it was against the Blue Jays, and right away they went into extra innings because they kept shooting themselves in the foot. And guess what happened? We lost top of the 10th. Blue Jays get like an RBI single, RBI double. I think it was Grichuk who actually hit it at the time. And then bottom half of the inning, we couldn't swing to save our damn lives with the runner on second, so we lost the game. And the thing with that is oh well, it was more exciting. It gives the advantage to the road team.
Dude, I've been saying that since day one. I agree with you 100%. If that moment, no matter what, if it's an extra innings, whoever scores first gets all of the momentum on their side. That's how baseball is. If you're handing that team the upper hand in extra innings, all it takes is 3 outs, and I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's not baseball anymore. It's not.
Daniel says Mookie is his favorite player. Obviously, being a Dodgers fan, that seems pretty accurate.
That's my boy.
I had the Orioles getting Carlos Correa. I know there was some interest there. I don't know why, but the Orioles are the Orioles. Who's that guess you got? Sox? That will be discussed. If as I said, if he wants to have one opening day, I definitely know a couple of Yankee fans that would definitely want to come on. Looks familiar. Freeman wanted to come. Oh, he was probably talking about me. But anyway, yeah. Freeman wanted to come home. Fuck Kenley. Yeah, I mean he's been a shit ton of
You guys
years with
sucks, man.
the LA Dodgers, and now he's just going somewhere else. I really think the Blue Jays are going to favorite the AL East. It's going to be a killer division this year. Yeah, the Blue Jays are definitely the top. I definitely see it as a little bit of a weaker American league. Like you have the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves in one division, and then what was it? 2 weeks ago, we were just trying to put out our predictions, and I think our top 3 teams were the Astros, the White Sox, and the Blue Jays. With the Mariners, and they've made some moves, and the Rangers, go in and all of our predictions and stuff like that. Gets repetitive real quick. Shouts to Evan in the chat. What's up, Alex? Was
What's up,
gone
Evan?
for a while. No problem, man. Listen, if you now, I don't know what your situation is, Evan, and this is to anyone who's a Yankee fan or lives in the New York area. My company that I'm a part of, NYY News TV, is having their own day Yankee Stadium. You pay for a ticket, and obviously we don't set the price. Yankees set the price, and Evan's one of my biggest supporters, so I figured I'd reach out to him. I've reached out to a couple other people as well. There's going to be a day, June 25th. It's a Saturday day game against the Astros where you get to hang out with me, a couple other content creators for NYY News TV, and you get free beer if you're of age, of course, free beer, free beverages, free food, and then obviously we go up into the second deck because that's where our seats are for the game. And I think that's a really interesting. So, Evan, if you have Twitter, I think you do, contact me. I'll give you the link. If anyone wants the link in the chat, please let me know. I'll definitely paste it. Tony Clark says the home run derby is so fun to watch, but it does mess up a player's groove. I think that's what he said. I am a big Jeff Bagwell fan. He stopped doing it because it would mess up his second half. And
Yeah, I mean, makes
that's a
sense.
remarkable player. Yeah. So that obviously we agree on. One of former Yankees retired today, and he was also a former Red Sox. I kind of want to get your thoughts on it. Andrew Miller. He was the former closer for you guys, at least I believe so. He was a former closer for us, and then he moved to an eighth
St.
inning
Louis,
guy.
right?
He was recently with St. Louis. He's been floating around, I guess, ever since he left the Yankees because he was with Cleveland and then all the other stuff. Evan, I got you, but your thoughts on Andrew Miller, just his time in Boston, his time as a player?
Yeah, man, 36 years old, played with Cleveland as well. One of those guys that had a long career. His time here was appreciated, just like all those guys that come in and just do their job out of the bullpen. Never had that many issues anywhere he went in his career. I mean, he was a solid pitcher. It doesn't matter where he went. NL, AL, hats off to him for having a great career. I always loved the beard too.
Yeah, obviously, Yankee players can have that, but I really liked him. And the problem is that it just combined with the spending spree that Cashman had, and it was all past their prime players. Like I think it was 2014 or 15 when we got him, but 2014 was a big spending spree by Brian Cashman. I remember it vividly. Masahiro Tanaka, which was good. Brian Roberts, past his prime, Baltimore Oriole, second baseman. Kelly Johnson, who actually I think we traded to the Red Sox in 2014 at the deadline. Brian McCann, I mean, that was a good signing, but obviously he was traded to put Gary Sanchez in the catching role. And it was just a couple other signings, and we didn't make the playoffs in 2014, which was very upsetting. Shouts to Braves fan in the chat. What's going on? Be sure
What's
to
going on, Braves fan?
Wanted Soler to stay. Where did he get the big payday? It's missing me right now. You got a big payday somewhere. I'm gonna look that up. Maybe someone's gonna answer it before I actually get the answer. He is with the Marlins, so damn. So now that I think about it, he might be in a worse position. But I guess money.
How about two Miami teams going after some free agents?
Yeah, I mean, let's shout outs to Tudo in the chat, by the way. Yeah, well, I mean, Miami, as in the Dolphins.
Dolphins got the trade, but how about them both going all in? They're trying to win ball games.
Yeah, they're trying to win. Obviously, they got Jacob Stallings earlier in the offseason. That's kind of what I wanted, but we'll talk about it because the Yankees really don't have a plan at catcher. Glad the Braves got Matt Olson. Yeah, they listen, all to win now, and they do need they did need some upgrades on that roster, just speaking from an outside perspective, because Brian Snitker is a good coach. Ron Washington obviously helping out. You guys weren't going to keep Freddie Freeman. You guys got Matt Olson, and then there's also a couple other areas like Adam Duvall's not a long-term answer. I think he was in the outfield or going to play somewhere else. If he's not a free agent, of course. Soler, he had a great home run in the World Series, but obviously, that wasn't a long-term answer. But, I enjoyed watching the Braves win the World Series. I was personally rooting for them. Any ideas for Rookie of the Year this year? Oof, that's interesting.
I haven't even thought about that.
That's an interesting one. That might be one to think of for next week, because that's the week before opening day. And
very true.
That's honestly a good day. We could just settle our predictions or rewrite them, because after this free agent period, I mean, it's gonna go all out.
Yeah, things have changed.
Yeah. So
let's take that for next week.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, next week's going to be a big show as well. And listen, even though we, as of right now, even though we got opening day and I won't be here, nighttime, it's still going to be dead red if Sox is available, and we'll be recapping opening day. So that's going to be a big podcast to come in and listen to. Back to Andrew Miller for a quick second. It's just sad that, 2015, and by the way, I know that people in the chat might come at me with this. They're trying to unseal that letter now that the Yankees possibly cheated with the Apple Watch or whatever happened in 2015. And, me being a Yankees fan, I'll try to downplay. I'll talk about that in a second. But back to Andrew Miller without straying in 7 different areas. He was a good pitcher. It's just sad that the Yankees didn't win with him, because I feel like we could have been something. And then 2016, they just said, okay, we're going to go ahead and rebuild. We're going to go get the prospects, Gleyber Torres, Clinton Frazier at the time. Yeah. And funny enough, both of those pitchers at opposite teams, Chapman and what was I going to say? Chapman and Miller ended up in the World Series on opposite teams. And guess what? Chapman won the World Series, and then he resigned with the Yankees. So Correa and Sanchez on the same team. Yeah, they literally got the left side of the infield that was supposed to be the Yankees' left side of the infield. I mean, that's fucking it. That
Yeah,
great work, Brian Cashman. Great fucking work right there.
man, that guy
Um,
stinks.
well, I mean, you probably enjoy it because you're a Sox fan.
I love it, man. But yeah, Andrew Miller, he was one of the best closers or relievers in the game at one point. And that 2016 year he had helping Cleveland go to the World Series, dude, they were so close to winning the World Series against Chicago. I mean, it was unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, Andrew Miller had a hell of a career, man. He made his way in the MLB, no question about it.
I must say this now that you bring me to the point of the Indians, we'll now name the Guardians. Is it me or does Terry
Well,
Francona
they were the Indians at the time, so
at the time? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it me or Terry Francona needs to get the hell out of Cleveland?
We talked about this last week. I agree. This guy is just washed up now. I think he should be done managing baseball. He's had a hell of a career, man.
I mean, personally, I kind of think the opposite. I mean, let me look how old Terry Francona is.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see. Terry Francona is 62 years old, so he's not the oldest MLB manager. But my thing is, Cleveland's been irrelevant for a few years now. I mean, yeah, they did have that one spurt where they faced the Yankees in the wild card. Was it a 3-game wild card series back in 2020, the Mickey Mouse one? And that's all I can remember. Because after 2016, I mean, and they still have some good players on that roster. Obviously, they gave up Lindor. I wanted J-Ram. I wanted Jose Ramirez. That's the only player
Jose Ramirez, yeah.
I wanted to replace Urshela. I said, look, if you're going to go out there, upgrade over Urshela, you get Jose Ramirez. But obviously, they didn't do that. They went in 7 different other areas, and, that's why a lot of people are feeling grim on the Yankees this upcoming season. Let me say this as well. There's one that's going to be implemented, and this was really announced the day that baseball came back. And there's also one other one that kind of pisses me off, but once you're into the feeling of baseball, you don't really see it as much. Thoughts on Rob Manfred saying that there's a chance that a team, let's just say the Yankees, the Red Sox, plays all the teams in baseball next year? Because he said it's a possibility 31, you could be fit. Like, if you played, like, all right, let me put this into simpler perspective. I'm a Yankees fan. We play all the teams in the MLB, kind of like what the NBA does. So,
okay. Is he just trying to increase popularity? I didn't see that. So is he just trying to increase the reach of these fans going to ball games, or what is it?
I mean, that's a good way of thinking about it. I mean, my friend was talking about it for years, that he kind of wanted something like that because, for different reasons. But I personally don't mind it. I mean, obviously, I've gotten used to the baseball of, just play this divisions and, your whole league and stuff like that. But I'm not necessarily opposed to playing all 31 teams.
I'm not either. It would give me more of a chance to see the Red Sox in person as a fan out here on the West Coast, a lifelong fan. Every time they come relatively close, I make the travel to go see them. But I think that would increase the ability for fans nationwide to be able to see their favorite club. And the first thing I think of is that when you say that Manfred said that, I think that he's going to try to increase the revenue from these fans around the game. I'm sure they're calling for it. I'm sure fans are calling for it.
Always remember Soler's monster home run in Game 6. Yes,
dude,
I definitely will. Once again,
that thing's awesome.
I was rooting for the Braves. I was calling some of the World Series games and some of the Championship Series games. I remember.
You guys did a good job calling that.
Thank you, by the way. The hell was I gonna get? It was okay. It's going to be interesting, though, how they do it, because obviously you got 162 games and you got to get the division stuff, which is going to be probably the most prioritized. How are you going to do the series? Is it still going to be okay? Or let's just say maybe we have 4 series, and this is not likely. I'm not going to say how many games, like a 3-game set or 4-game set. Okay, 2 series away and 2 series at home. So let's just say, for instance, the Sox and the Padres, right? Because I know you live out, I think, near that area.
Yeah.
Let's just say the Padres come to Boston twice, and then the Sox come to San Diego twice. So, I mean, that's just a proposition. I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes.
Or even once. How about once a year? Just extend those games, make the series longer, just make it once a year. You go to each
Right.
ballpark one, you know?
So it's going to be really interesting to see how that piles up. In terms of spring training, I've noticed this the last 2 years. In some way, it's kind of pissed me off. But being that baseball nearly didn't happen this year, I've come more to appreciate it. Let me just shout out a couple of guys. Jeffrey Jamestown Baseball Commissioner says hello at Sox Arizona.
What's
Tony Clark
going
says,
on?
just subscribe to you, Big Blue. I became a Sox fan watching Sox Arizona all last year.
What's
Definitely.
up, my man? Tony's been there since the beginning of since spring training of last year when we first started calling games. That's my man. I'm glad he subscribed to you as well, man. What's up, Tony?
Sox does a great job with the Red Sox. Tatis shouldn't ride motorcycles anymore. Yeah, I mean, I forget how long he's going to be out. And Bob Melvin's like, yeah, his motorcycle days are over. But, I mean,
yeah, no shit.
People got to be careful with that stuff. I mean, Miguel Andujar, he's not a big player. He doesn't have a big role in the Yankees anymore because Cashman wasted his value. And I'm not saying this is his fault. It's totally not. But in the DR, he got robbed, but now he's okay. We go back a couple of years ago, and this is just, almost 20 years ago now. In 2004, the year after the Yankees went to the World Series against the Marlins, Aaron Boone tore his ACL while playing basketball. And they cut him because of that, because it was a violation of his contract. Then he went to, I believe, Cleveland and a couple other places to finish off his career. But just shows you that extracurricular activities just like that can really fuck up your career.
It's tough, man. You got to be careful, but at the same time, how hard would it be to have a bunch of money and want to ride around on your motorcycle? At the end of the day, you're the $1 million man. You're the face of your franchise. You want to extend your career, just get somebody to drive for you or something.
Yeah. And if you're making that kind of money, you can't be doing stupid and reckless things like Tatis. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's definitely that one side of that, and that obviously covers most of it. But when I was going back to the spring training stuff, it seems that they're doing things. And listen, I'm a big preseason guy. I like the NFL preseason. I hate when they cut it down to 3 because I feel like it takes away from, different opportunities for like late round picks and guys who are just trying to get back into the league.
Of course.
But in terms of spring training, they're trying to do this thing, and I think it's going to become a thing of the future because they tested it out in 2021, and it seems like it's to be a part of the future. This whole pod thing, which means that you only play regionally in terms of your state. Like we don't play, like I know it was how many weeks, they cut down to the season 2. They had to, rescript the whole spring training schedule very quickly, but it just seemed like we've had, I don't know how many games we've had so far and just in total, but we don't play you guys in spring training, which sucks. We don't play the Cardinals. At least I don't think we don't. I think we play the Nationals once. We don't play the Astros, and I believe they train in Florida. So, I mean, I personally...
Who is it that you guys play a bunch? Is it Philly?
We play Philly. We play Toronto. We play Detroit.
Detroit, too.
We lost Detroit today. I mean, they had a rain delay. We led 3-0, and then we fucking blew it in the 5th.
I saw that, man.
That was, Joely Rodriguez, who was very good in the bullpen last year and came from Texas, and I raved about him. Gives up a leadoff home run to Heimer Candelario, and then a ton of hits and 5 runs. Let me see who else we got on the spring training schedule, because some of our opponents might interlap, but it's not the same. Like, I don't think we play the Twins. No, we don't play the Twins.
We play the Twins like 8 times this spring. It's ridiculous. It happens every year.
So our just the basis of our opponents: Pittsburgh, which was our first opponent, Baltimore, Detroit, Philly, Toronto, Detroit, Atlanta. That's 6, 7 teams, and you're going to be at some point. And I understand, and also I'll bring up another thing as well. You're going to be seeing the same pitchers. You're going to be seeing the same hitters, and I understand. Yeah, you could get better, but it's like facing, like if you're a left tackle in NFL training camp, you're seeing the same guy against, let's say same pass rush on your team. That's kind of what happened in 2020 when they didn't have a preseason and then they face the same guys. Maybe some guys did better, some guys did worse, whatever. But my problem with that also is as well, especially with the competition standpoint. And once again, I understand it's only spring training. Is that there weren't, at least for the Yankees, I don't know about the Sox, there were not a ton of non-roster invitees. There were maybe about 15 to 20 at most. So,
I agree. I know. I think same with us. There's a lot of the same guys up there.
Yeah. Big Blue, I just subscribed to your YouTube channel. Much appreciated. Big Blue, we open the regular season with the Yankees. Yes, I will be at the game. I will be at the game, section 235.
I'll be calling it too, Jeffrey, for sure.
SoxArizona will be calling it. So obviously, if you can't make it to the game, then you'll be making it to the stream. I don't know how Red Sox broadcasters are, but the way I've kind of turned on the Yes Network and kind of realized sometimes how they push crap that's not really true. I think you'd much rather be listening to Sox calling it.
Well, I think the guys at Nesson do a good job. And shout out to Jerry Remy, who passed away. They're going to be wearing a patch all season for him.
Number 2, I think it is, or 4.
Yeah, man, it gets me emotional just thinking about it. But I think they do a good job. Dennis Eckersley, Joe Castiglione.
I know
Euclid is back with the boys.
The first spring training game, and I discovered this late because of the spring training revitalized schedule. It was, I'm trying to think about it now. It was last week, I think, where I'm like, okay, we got baseball tomorrow, but it was Thursday. We didn't play. I'm like, God damn it, it's a fucking revitalized schedule. So I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead, turn on Minnesota, because for some reason, Verizon Fios here gives me Nesson. So I could watch Red Sox games when I want to. I mean, I wonder opening day if I'm going to actually get both, because sometimes some networks will do that. I mean, I know SNY does that when they have Mets Yankees. But yeah, I mean, also shout outs to one of the first players I recognized. I think he was in the bottom of the first, the second, Bobby Dahlbeck, home run. How's he been doing this spring?
And this spring, along with last spring, I mean, I posted a little short calling him the king of spring. This dude, and doesn't necessarily carry over, but he just feels good in spring training. I think JetBlue Park has a soft spot in his heart or something, because he just loves hitting it over that wall. But I love Bobby Dahlbeck. I root for him more than anybody does, man. I want him to succeed, and he's going to be our starting first baseman, so I'm all in with him.
So I picked up a quote, and I don't know where I found this. I think it was trying to come up with a few topics, and obviously, I do have a few topics, but supposedly Will Middlebrook said this to Trevor Story in a joking fashion, but some people could take it some other ways. So he said this to Trevor Story when he was trying to get him to sign with Boston. He says, I laid it out. I said, look, New York smells like garbage, and they have rats the size of Shetland ponies. You don't want to go there. You don't want to go to California. The taxes are absurd. You'll lose all your money there. In Houston, they have hurricanes. The perfect place to go is Boston. So
I saw that. I don't remember where I saw that, but that is hilarious. I mean, he's got a good point.
Colby Sports says, hi, what's going on? Broncos fan.
Colby?
Broncos Cardinals. At least I read free from that. So it's very interesting. That's very sad what happened earlier today. The Broncos Stadium caught fire.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
Mile High Stadium, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
There's a couple rows of seats. I don't know what happened, but hope anyone. Well, I mean, no one was probably
I'm
there.
assuming everybody's all right.
Yeah. Hopefully the stadium is going to be recovered, and obviously they got so much time before the season. But then again, also they don't have. At least I don't know. They don't have anyone playing there. But
it could be worse. You know. It could be the Washington Commanders having shit leak out of their pipes onto the fans.
I mean, I've made some very, very rated R jokes about that. That I'll save for probably another time. So let's get into free agency. Let's get in the offseason, the big stuff. Big Blue, I just started to follow you on Instagram. Yes, if you have Twitter too, that I'm also very active on there. Let me ask you this, because I've seen you complain about people complaining a lot. That you know, obviously I replied to one of your tweets, you calling out somebody. What is it? Do some Sox fans not like the Trevor Story signing? What's going on?
It seems like it's one of those things with Giants fans too, and I know you know Giants fans well. and I follow them very, very closely too. But it's like a divided fan base, and not a lot of teams are like that. It seems like Packers fans are all in. They want Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. Like same thing in baseball with other teams, but Red Sox fans are like, no, we don't
I
want
think
this
it's the
guy.
bigger market teams, personally.
Yeah, there's a lot more fans, which is going to give you a more demographic of different kind of people. But I signing a guy like Trevor Story defensively to be your second baseman if you haven't had a guy for years since Manny Machado took out Dustin Pedroia's knee. I mean, what better move can you ask for? I don't understand the delusional expectations these people have. I like to call them geeks because they don't know what they're talking about.
We all know where you derive that from, at least. At least
Exactly.
I think so.
No, and Pizzle makes a good point. With his 60-minute man, dude, I'm telling you, you got to live by it. And when your team makes a move, you got to be all in my opinion. You got to believe in that guy because they do. And if you're going to be a fan of your squad, they sign a big name like Trevor Story, who's unbelievable defensively. He's going to hit at least 250. He's going to hit at least 254. It's probably 25, 30 home runs. What more can you ask for? Minimal errors at second base. It's going to be great. Trust me.
I wonder where Gronk will be playing this year. That's a very interesting situation. I know the Bills were interested in him, and I have a very good friend who actually, and this is not common. It's common the other way, but he moved from Florida to New York. I don't know how many years ago though. He's a huge Bucks fan. He thinks that Gronk is coming back. Possibly Edelman's coming to Tampa Bay because Brady, and they had that big workout. But that's interesting. Bogarts and Story or Semien and Seager?
No question about it. We got the best infield in baseball.
I think that honestly that might be two different situations because Bogart's been playing shortstop. Stories, that's your more up the middle and then the left side because Semien and Seager are going to be playing shortstop and third base. But honestly, defensively, I would have to agree with Sox, an unbiased opinion. I would take Bogarts and Story. I don't know how Semien is defensively. I mean, I know he had a big year with the Jays last year. There must have been at least 2-3 guys on that team had 40-plus home runs. I remember Semien, I think, had 43. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had plus 40, and then somebody else.
Bichette. I think Bichette was hitting a bunch of bombs too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Randall Grichuk,
I think he was more that 20 range. Let me take a look. So, 29 home runs last year for Bichette. Let me make sure I get those numbers correct. Vlad Guerrero Jr. had 48 home runs, obviously an all-star. And then, what's the one I'm missing? Marcus Semien. Semien had a total of 45 home runs. So, that's
a lot of home runs from your guy in the infield. That's impressive, man. I hope Story can keep up those home run numbers. I mean, I think playing second is going to help him a lot confidence-wise, and hitting over the monster is going to be good for him, I believe.
Now, let me ask you this, and obviously, I personally, if I was a Red Sox fan, I wouldn't agree with all these geeks, as you call them. They're saying, "Oh, Trevor Story." First of all, I didn't get the tweet that I responded to that you were quote tweeting. It's like 270 is not bad in this day and age. I mean, you talk about people who have lowered the standard because of analytics and the 240 batting average and all this shit. 270 is not bad, at least for Trevor Story as well. Does that push? I don't know what his name is now because he's got so many different nicknames. Does that push Kike Hernandez to center field?
Yeah,
let me ask you one more question as well. Jackie Bradley Jr. is back for the Sox. I mean, what do you think of that? Plus the Hernandez question.
It's awesome because we had this core, it looks like, coming together on the middle of the infield with Story and Xander. We got a third baseman that's developing a lot in Rafael Devers. Obviously, I told you I'm rooting for Bobby Dahlbeck at first base a lot. So that looks like it's going to be solid offensively and defensively. Now, in the outfield, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of guys that you can plug in place in multiple spots. Verdugo played a lot of right field last year. When JD Martinez was playing in the field, he was playing left. Right now, we can play JBJ in right, Kike in center, and Verdugo in left. That's what it looks like it's going to be. Alex Cora mentioned that in a previous press conference, I think 2 days ago. So it looks like JBJ is going to play right. And a side note, JBJ said eventually in his career in Boston, he wants to jump up on top of that right field wall and rob a home run while he's standing on top of that wall. So look out for that this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see because Bradley Jr. obviously was a ton of years with the Red Sox a few years ago. And, he went to the Brewers. I don't know how long that was. I think he signed a minor league deal or whatever happened over there. And then he comes back to Red Sox. I'm like, I gotta ask Sox
He
about
played
this.
in the majors. He started for them, but I think he hit like 209 for them. It just wasn't a good fit. And he's so talented. He's probably the best defensive outfielder in the game, and I think that's unbiased. But we'll see. I mean, he was making unbelievable plays all year 2 years ago for us. We'll see if he's still got the juice out there.
Yeah, in 2019, he hit 225. Then 2020 with the Sox, 283. Then he jumped down to 163.
Oh, so it was bad.
2021. And that's, I mean, I always like to say this. I mentioned this the first episode. As long as you can match up a guy like Freddie Freeman or Sal Perez that hits a ton of home runs or just gets on base a lot or, I would say has a fair share of hitting for average, I don't have a problem with them striking out a lot because you're getting some consistency in there. Jackie Bradley Jr. hit 6 home runs, struck out 132 times, hit for 163. I mean, that's terrible.
That's not good at all.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. But I expect him to be better with the Red Sox. Now, obviously,
it's that hometown feel. He's going to be better than that, 100%.
Now, obviously, you mentioned Bobby Dahlbeck trying to go for first base. Who's the threat at first base if he somehow loses the job somehow? And I know
Travis Shaw.
Travis Shaw.
That's all we got, man.
Okay, then I definitely think Bobby Dahlbeck's going to win. Yeah,
I mean, I think he'll win the spot over. It's just can he have success over 162 games? It's a long ride. He's going to have his ups and downs. We're going to have support from the other guys 100%.
Yeah. So I'm going to go into a bit of my off season, but kind of depressing off season as I think I'm not sure if Tony Clark, I think he's the Sox fan or whoever's a Sox fan in the chat. You guys are all going to be laughing at me because I'll be making fun and throwing shade at my general manager and my owner and all that.
I love it.
Was it yesterday's game? Was watching Jackie Bradley Jr. has still a good arm and throw to home base, and he threw a guy out from the outfield.
He did, and it was shallow, but it was a nice throw. Nice to see in spring. Jackie makes unbelievable plays. You got to watch out for him. Do not run on that outfield. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and he's been in the league for a couple of years now, and I'm surprised, just hearing from that. Even though you said it was shallow, still having that arm. With that being said, I'm going to go into my offseason. The Yankees' very depressing offseason, so everybody get their popcorn ready. And I've ranted on this a dozen times. I'm not afraid to do it again if I go into that tangent. So their first real move was trading for Josh Donaldson, Ben Rortvedt, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And with that being said, they gave up Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. Effectively, in my opinion, they lost that trade. I don't think that, honestly, is an opinion that's a hot take. It's not. Josh Donaldson is on the wrong side of 36 years old. Not only did they take him and say, okay, well, that's an upgrade over Urshela. Defensively, that's not an upgrade. So, honestly, if you take a look at things, I'm not going to say that Josh Donaldson is as bad as Gleyber Torres defensively because he's very bad defensively. But you take a look, you effectively did nothing because last year was Urshela and Gleyber Torres at shortstop for probably 150 games. And then now you have Kiner-Falefa, who's good defensively at short. He could play all around. He could even play catcher. You have him at shortstop. And then at third base, you have Donaldson, who's on the wrong side of 36 years old. So effectively, you did nothing there. And they took on $50 million almost of him in the next 2 years. They pay him $21 million this year, $21 million the next, with an option 2024. I believe that sounds about right. So I don't get that. That was the biggest move, and people are, obviously coming out here, and I agree with them in this. You have to finish with something. That cannot be your only move. And one of the things that pisses me off is, yeah, we got Ben Rortvedt. He's supposedly a good defensive catcher. Two things. I said one of these before I found out he was injured, which is the second thing, and I'll get to that in a second. This guy has played 39 games in the big leagues, and you're expecting him to come in here with Kyle Higashioka and actually do something? Why are we, relying on unproven talent? And then the second one, he's injured. He has an oblique injury and is likely not ready for opening day, so I won't be seeing him. I don't get that. And it's not like, oh, well, he got injured in camp for the Yankees or anything. No, he got injured and Brian Cashman knew about it. So it's a double lose. Okay. So what effectively they lost it twice with those things. So you literally could have said, okay, listen, we're going to give you Gary Sanchez. If you need a bargaining chip, we're going to give you Gio Urshela. Then we could take Kiner Falefa, and that's it, or pile on whatever else. Josh Donaldson, wrong side of 36, cannot do great things defensively like he used to. And then Rortvedt, who's injured and who has little experience. And I don't care as much, to be honest with you, about offense as a catcher. Like, I don't know how he was one of my targets. How is Christian Vasquez as a catcher on offense and defense?
No, he's kind of streaky on offense. He reminds me a lot of the way Christian Arroyo handles the bat. But I agree that I don't care too much personally about offense from a catcher. It's much more of an important defensive position in my mind. But I like Vasquez at the plate. It seems like he has a clutch factor, which is not every guy has that factor where you want him up at the plate when it's time. But he's middle of the road. But like you said, it's not that big of a deal from your catcher in my eyes, at least.
Yeah, and, I obviously love the defensive part because obviously the Yankees need an upgrade over Gary Sanchez defensively. Pitchers were not throwing to him, all this other nonsense. And, why do certain fans and certain teams worry about offenses? Because you maybe don't have a good offensive put together personnel, right? Tony Clark says, I don't like Donaldson's attitude. Yeah, he's a pretty... He's a pretty snarky. He kind of has the edge to him. As of right now, him and Garrett Cole have solved their issues. And obviously, I'm not going to get too far into this because this is not ESPN or any of those other outlets. But Judge will play on opening day. Donaldson will play on opening day. They lifted that. They put an exemption in for that being unvaccinated. That's honestly where you got me sold on going to opening day, because I could have, that's the day before Easter break for me for college. And I was saying, you know what? Yeah, my professor's going, who's a partial season ticket holder. And then my friend wants to go. But at the same time, am I really going to go see, the Yankees without Judge or Donaldson or Rizzo?
That's a good point.
And seeing a bunch of minor leaguers. So I'm like, you know what? The Yankees pissed on the offseason anyway. Maybe not. So then they turned that around, and now I'm going to opening day. But just to finish off the thoughts in terms of that trade, they didn't make any other moves. All they did was sign Anthony Rizzo. And I'll get to that in a second. Tony Clark says, think about this as someone in the AL East has to finish fourth, and they will be a very good team with a bad result. Right now, honestly, obviously predictions are going to be big next week, heading into the last week of spring training plus the first week of the regular season. I still stand by the Yankees as a fourth-place team in the AL East. I mean, people were talking about the Rays, they haven't done much this offseason. But I kind of, not that, they pissed me off with the whole four outfielder crap and all the analytical nonsense. And I was actually listening to MLB.TV today, and it was the Tigers broadcast. It wasn't the Yankees broadcast. It was the Tigers broadcast because it was in Lakeland. And this shows you how analytically advanced. And I personally don't like this because I feel like pitchers are being babied. They, as in the Tampa Bay Rays last year, were the only playoff team that didn't have their starters combined go 800 innings.
That's interesting. I think it's an interesting way to play baseball, man. I wouldn't be surprised if more ball clubs turn that way, especially if it continues to have success. Obviously, haven't won a World Series, but just shy. So we'll see. I think it might be good for guys' arms, but that's a good point. They're the only ball club that hasn't had. How many innings was it? Repeat that for me.
It was less than 800. They were the only
800,
team playoffs that less than 800 innings pitched by combined their starters. And yeah, they're very advanced in terms of that stuff. Gonzaga just lost. I don't know who they were playing. I know that's March Madness, obviously, but a lot of upsets. If anyone's been
playing
keeping
Arkansas.
Yeah. I know my Notre Dame upset Rutgers. They upset it was either Kentucky or somebody else, and then they lost. I forget to who, but that's that. So when you heard this trade from an outsider standpoint, what were your thoughts?
Well, from an outsider, we're talking Donaldson, right?
We're talking the Donaldson trade, yes.
Well, I believe that 36 years old is a little bit too much, and yeah, he's had a long, good career. He hits the ball a long way when he's on. I think you make a good point that defensively it's not much of an upgrade, but he's going to fit that team well. The best point that you made was that it can't be the only move, and so far, what else have the Yankees done? From the outsider looking in, I haven't heard anything else. 36 years old, he's going to hit the ball a long way. It'll be streaky. We'll see how the other guys support him, but honestly, as an outsider, I don't see this being much of a threat, to be honest with you, for the rest of the AL East.
Yeah, it's not a blockbuster move that a lot of people are looking for, and obviously we'll get into starting pitching and stuff like that because that was supposed to be one of the Yankees' top needs. And in terms of re-signing Rizzo, I dislike that because, in my personal opinion, it wasn't so much about money. And Brian Cat, and I'll talk about the spin stuff in a minute because it's all PR, with the nonsense that was coming out afterwards. Oh, the Yankees were in on story. Oh, they weren't in on story. Blah, 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 blah. No, shut the fuck up. But in terms of Rizzo, it's just you had so many options out there. You had so many options. And just this whole offseason, there was no way you could have fucked it up. And they fucked it up.
They missed out on Correa. They missed out on Story. They bring in 36-year-old Josh Donaldson. I mean, I don't know what he's thinking.
Actually, now that you bring up a good point, let me go back to that trade. They freed up the money and had Correa in their friggin' pockets.
They had him.
They're worried about a guy in their system, Anthony Volpe, who's a big supporter, whose dad is a big supporter of the NYY News TV channel. Just a fun fact. Anyway, with that being said, nice. They're worried about this guy and saying, okay, he's going to be the next Derek Jeter possibly. The guy hasn't hit Double-A yet. So what are we waiting for? And yes, Kinder Falefa. Yes, that's great. Great defensively. He's a good contact hitter. I would not mind him being leadoff. But it makes a good point. Oh, all right. They freed up the money for them to get Correa, and there's two things. There's two things that go into that. Correa would not have blocked Volpe because Correa said in the offseason that he wouldn't mind moving to third base if he had to for an opportunity. So that's number one. That's where they could have said, okay, maybe 2 years into the deal, Volpe's ready. He's going to be the next shortstop of the future. We're going to go ahead, move over Correa at third base and do what we got to do. The second one is that there were so many. There's right now two different options, I think. Two different options that deal, plus the end of his contract, which is free agency. So he literally has an opt-out after this year, after next year, and boom, he hits free agency. So I don't understand the excuse of, oh, well, they weren't in on shortstop, whatever, blocking Volpe. I don't get that. I think that's all spin. That's all PR. And my buddy Donald was talking about it the other day. He's like, Brian Cashman, obviously he was great in his first couple of years, but it seems like the last few years he's just been spinning the narrative, spinning the nonsense where they're going to go out and get a shortstop and a first baseman. And they had a conference with Freddie Freeman and his agent in November. Where the frick did that go? I mean, seriously. Tony Clark says that the Orioles offered Correa 10 years, $325 million. His deal, I believe, was $36 million a year. And once again, if the Twins, for some reason, feel that they're not going to be competitive, and obviously they had a down year the last, I think, 2 years with Rocco Baldelli. In 2019, I think we played the Twins in the playoffs, or whatever the case may be. So they haven't been that terrible recently. We just have had a very good history of kicking their ass in the playoffs. Anyway, so if the Twins decide, listen, Correa, he's not the long-term answer. Maybe they have a guy in the system, whatever. Let's go out there. Have him opt out, and then he goes to another team, whatever the case may be. So I don't get that whole narrative. And going back to the first base thing, and I'll obviously let you have a say on this in just a second, you don't have anybody in the system. You don't have anybody in the system that can play first base. You drafted somebody last year in the 5th round. Wow. This is not the NFL draft, the NHL draft, the NBA draft. You signed Rizzo to a 2-year contract. And guess what? He could opt out next year and go sign with another team for more money. He's earning $16 million, $500,000, actually 16.5. So yeah, $500,000 less than last year. And he could say, you know what? I don't feel like the Yankees are going anywhere, and I'm just going to go with another team, and another team will be ready for me, and we'll win. He could say that, and the Yankees will be totally screwed. And you take a look at the. You were saying?
I say he probably will say that. I mean, once we see that everybody's talking about the Yankees aren't going to win with Cashman, well, I think once he realizes that, it literally, like you said, there's nobody at first base. They got Rizzo, and if you look at the depth chart for first base, they got Miguel Andujar and DJ LeMahieu at first base right now for the Yankees. I mean, I think Rizzo's out of there after this year. You said he's eligible to leave after next year,
He's
correct?
got an option, yes.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I didn't even think about that their lack of first baseman. I really thought that that they were solid. I really did, but I guess nobody at first. That's an issue, I think. I really do.
Yeah, one thing that really pisses me off, and once again brought up by a good friend, Donald Stewart, who does Pinstripe Chronicles and Nerding Out Sports podcast with Rob, and that's all about the Giants. He basically put a great point out there. If you look at the Luke Voit trade, everybody's talking about, oh, they're going to get this guy back. They're going to get some quality pieces. It was a salary dump. They effectively had no leverage in that trade because they already had their answer. So it's not like, okay, and I'm not saying this would be anything realistic because mock trades are, mock trades for a reason. Okay, let's go out there. We haven't re-signed anybody yet. Go out there, trade Voit for Eric Hosmer or whoever. And obviously Hosmer is going to flip DH roles with Voit in San Diego. But they effectively had no leverage. And once again, you don't have a first baseman in the system. Take a look at next year's free agent class. I feel like I have it somewhere here. Eric Hosmer, that's a player option. So, if San Diego doesn't win anything this year, or at least they come close, he could possibly stay there. Once again, player option, not a club option. Then, you have Colin Moran from Cincinnati, Travis Shaw from Boston. Obviously, he's competing right now, as you mentioned, with Bobby Dahlbeck for the first base spot. So I don't know how much that's going to be. Club option for the Dodgers on Max Muncy, which would be a good get. But God knows the Steinbrenner and the Cashman family. Jesus Aguilar from Miami, and he's a big home run guy. I think he's too big, and he's not great defensively. I think he's more of a DH. How many DHs do the Yankees have? Donaldson, Stanton, Judge. Tons of DHs. And then Ryan Healy from Tampa Bay, who I believe is possibly on a minor league contract. So my honest long-term solution would be Austin Wells. Right now, he's not – I think he's in Double-A. Right now, he's not great defensively. Start transitioning, and he's got the bat. He definitely has the bat to play. Transition him over to first base and either stick with Higashioka and Rortvedt, which would not be a great idea, or you could have Antonio Gomez come up, who's very good defensively, and that would be your corner catcher first base duo. So I just don't understand. And then with this catcher thing, it puts you in a bind because, to be honest, I haven't seen a worse catching core for the Yankees as in a duo since 2013. Because you take a look at, these are going to be your starting two catchers on the 25, 26-man roster on opening day. It's going to be Rob Brantley, who played against the Red Sox last year during all the COVID stuff. I think that's when they were hit. Yeah. And he was terrible behind the plate. He was terrible. Couldn't hit. Couldn't defend. Kyle Higashioka, yeah, he's good defensively, but he's just not. He's a backup catcher. But then you compare that, and I'm obviously making this comparison to 2013, where we had Austin Romine and Chris Stewart. They couldn't hit to save their lives, and it was just a bad overall offensive year. So not having any power in the lineup, not getting a sure option, and then you turn that into a starting pitching issue, and you could say, okay, well, listen, we could turn this prospect that we got from the Padres, we could flip him and say we're going to trade him to Oakland and get Montas, or we could get Sean Manaea and Sean Murphy, who's decent offensively and he's good defensively. But they didn't do that. And as of right now, they're keeping Montas and Manaea and Sean Murphy, which doesn't make too much sense, but it's the
It doesn't seem like they're looking big picture. It seems like they're kind of in this like small, put your blinders on and try to just win right. It seems like they're trying to win right now, but at the same time, what are you doing signing only Josh Donaldson, a 36-year-old? Go out there and spend some money. They freed up. Like you made up a good point. You made a lot of good points right there. They had Correa in their back pocket. It just doesn't make any sense. You try to put your mind on what exactly are they trying to do right now? Are they trying to win, or are they trying to miss out on catchers and first baseman? I mean, those are two important spots. Rizzo's out, and then what are you going to do? Like you said, you got Higashioka and Brantley as your depth chart at catcher. It just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And the problem is that, Hal Steinbrenner doesn't want to add a major contract to extend Aaron Judge. And the thing is, why are you going to extend him if you want to wait for Volpe, if you don't have a long-term first base option? And that's part of my problem as to why, why I wanted them to sell at the deadline last year. I mean, once again, I'm going to revert back to this point before I go back to the deadline point, because I was, very disappointed in some ways with what they did, very happy with some ways in what they did. But you have Cole, major contract in his prime. You have Stanton in his prime, major contract. You have Judge pending an extension. They're going to arbitration. Hearings will take place during the season because of the lockout, so that's not going to be too pretty. And they're settling on $17 million, and when Aaron Judge wants $21 million. And personally, in my opinion, why shouldn't he get the $21 million? Why? There's so many other issues at hand. And I know, once again, they're trying to get this long-term thing. But when you're going to sit here and tell me, oh, we got to wait for Volpe, and, we got to wait for this guy, whatever, then you should have sold last year. Last year, because of the way they were playing in the first half of the season, I wanted them to sell. Chad Green, Chapman, this guy, that guy, whatever you can clear, you clear. And I'm not necessarily like that all the time, but I was like that. And then to add to that, you get Joey Gallo, who there's 3 outcomes of his at-bats: home run, walk, or strikeout. And yeah, I've seen it floating on Twitter. That, and I'm not trying to call anybody out here. The guy who says is actually a good friend of mine. We go back a few years with a certain blog, but that's not the point. Saying that Gallo should be the leadoff guy because of his OBP. I'm like, okay, so if we're going to just read from spreadsheets, why don't we do that for every single team across the MLB? That's
teams that do that don't win. The teams that do that don't win.
Exactly. I don't feel that some of these guys, and this is not CJ, there's a lot of other people that are actually worse. I mean, I had somebody say that the Yankees were a top 5 pitching staff last year. No, they weren't. You could say, oh, well, they had a better save. Like, literally, this was the argument, Sox, that the save percentage among teams that made the playoffs was best because it was best for the Yankees. Like, they had the best save percentage. I'm like, first of all, what game are you watching? Second of all, what team are you watching? Because Chapman stunk a part of the season last year. Then, look at Zach Britton. He blew the Field of Dreams game. So I don't get, and going back to the Gallo argument, yeah, sure, he walks. Yeah, sure, he's got speed. And then there's this other debate about Rizzo possibly leading off, which obviously Sox knows about because that was a wild card game. Joey Gallo does not set the table. There's 1 of 3 in probability that he sets the table, and that's walking. Yes, he could steal bases possibly. He's very speedy. He's got a lot of range in the outfield. For some reason, he's scared to play center field. I mean, for a guy that hits 160, I kind of think that you should be a little bit more flexible to certain positions.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Right. But my point with Gallo is he's not a fucking contact hitter. You need a contact hitter at the top of the order.
To get on,
seriously.
Yeah, for real. I agree 100%.
You need a contact hitter at the top of the order. That's what some of these people, coming out here, they don't understand that. Gallo, yeah, speed, OBP, all this. Guess what? Rizzo's OBP is probably good. The guy can't run. He's in his 30s. Sure, he can hit for contact. He can hit for home runs. He doesn't have huge strikeout numbers, at least to my knowledge, but he can't run. So once again, it goes to real game feeling. It's not just the analytics. It's not just spreadsheets. So I don't see why, Aaron Boone's coming out here saying, well, Gallo's an option. No, actually, no. He didn't say Gallo was an option. He said Aaron Judge was an option for leadoff. No. Listen, I like Judge. I want him to be, a Yankee for life. But that's not an ideal table setter. DJ LeMahieu, that's a table setter. That's someone who hits for contact. He can hit a home run, in certain at-bats. You take a look at Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. If he started opening day at shortstop at the top of the order, I would be so happy. I wouldn't be mad at all. Gleyber Torres, if he was better defensively and if he wasn't so fucked up mentally the last few years, I would say, okay, well, listen, he needs to do a couple of things, but top of the order. I just don't get the feeling behind having these power guys all of a sudden at the top of the order. You're making
Imagine have somebody set them up too. Imagine those power hitters having somebody like a good Gleyber Torres to set them up and hit where they're supposed to in the lineup 3, 4, 6. That's the recipe for success right there. But when you start trying to pull those guys up, who's going to hit after them? Who's going to set them up to hit the RBIs at the bottom of the lineup? I think that's a dangerous situation you get in trying to pull Rizzo up there, trying to pull Gallo up there. I think that's a reach. I really do.
I mean, at times last year they had Gallo hitting 2 and 3 because they were trying to balance out righty lefty, righty lefty, righty lefty.
Right.
And he sucked the first few weeks. And then when they got to Miami, I think it was, or wherever they went to, he finally got to the 5. And then they put DJ LeMahieu hitting 4th, 5th, 6th because he was on some cold streak. I'm like, what are we doing here? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
It's all Boone, man. Boone doesn't know what he's doing.
No, he doesn't. And the front office doesn't know. And damn, I forgot the point I was going to get at. But I'm just tired of seeing this. Oh, the power hitters. Let me ask you, and I think we actually covered this in our recap last year when we did the one collab. One of the biggest problems last year, and this, I was given the excuse. I think Boone actually said this as well because, it's all for PR. It's all for spinning that shit. What was one of the Yankees' problems last year? In offense, it was the bottom of the order. And if you have all of your power guys at the top half of the order, you're not going to have anything to come down to. In the second, third, 5th, 6th inning, you're not going to have anything. And for an offense that was so terrible last year, so terrible, it just puts an exclamation mark on your bad offense. And that's when the pitching has to save you. That's what creates the overreaction of, the pitching was, top 5. No, the fuck it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So
well, that's what and as from a pitcher standpoint, solo bombs don't kill you. When you have those guys leading off in the first inning, if they hit a bomb, I mean, solo bombs aren't going to kill you. You want somebody to set them up, like I said. If they're up there in the top of the lineup, you make a good point. At the bottom of the lineup struggled last year for the Yankees. If they continue to do that, you, Yankees fan, needs a guy to be in the middle of the lineup to knock those guys in when they can get on base. You need a contact hitter up there. I don't think it's structured. It's structured like that for a reason. I think teams like the Red Sox do a good job having guys like Kike Hernandez at the leadoff spot. What a perfect guy to lead off a baseball game for you. And we had Mookie Betts before that. It didn't get better than that.
Right. Arthur says, "Hey, Sox Arizona." Tony Clark says, "I wasn't happy to see Greinke go back to Kansas City. He would have been a good addition to the Yankees or someone." The problem I have with Greinke, and I don't know if you've ever played it, but I always keep in mind in my head some players that have been like one of the first baseball games I played when I got into baseball was MVP Baseball 2005. Probably one of the best baseball games ever. And for me, I give two reasons for that, just to go into a little fun for a second, is that A, you could get ejected, but by two ways. You can either argue with the umpire over a strike call or an out call, or you could actually charge the mound in that game.
Yeah.
It was.
And why can't you do that in the show? I mean, I don't know why they don't let you do that.
Because it's probably E for everyone. And
I understand.
all that's gotten away. And in 2K, when they had the 2K games, which I didn't think were bad, I still have some. They didn't really do that either. But
well, what was cool? I don't know if you recognize. Sorry to get off track again, but what was cool about the 2K? I think it was 2K15, maybe 14, even when they put the mics on the controllers. You could get a technical if you said shit, fuck. You could get a technical.
Yes, that was for NBA.
Yes.
And then also, once again, MLB made 2K games. They discontinued that due to sales.
Right.
But I personally did like the 2K games. But going back to my point about MVP Baseball 2005, there's only a few players. I'm surprised there are actually players that have been in that game and that are still playing today. Miguel Cabrera is one. Zach Greinke's another. I feel like there's one more that I'm missing, but that's not important right now. In terms of Greinke, he has. I think he's lost his touch in terms of his fastball. He tries to get everybody with his off speed, and I just think in a hitter's ballpark, like Yankee Stadium, it's not going to work.
He starts to get creative.
You have to get creative. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know who he signed with. Another pitcher that pitched for both of us, Rich Hill. He does that a lot.
Yes, he's a sneaky guy. He'll get you with a quick pitch. He'll get you with an occasional ephus. Zach Greinke's the same way. I love the way he pitches, but like you said, in a hitter's ballpark, I mean, all it takes is one good contact swing, and the ball's gone. When you lose your fastball, it's tough to go out there and start a game at Yankee Stadium without a fastball.
Right. One player that actually surprises me, but it doesn't surprise me a little bit, that hasn't been signed, Justin Verlander.
Interesting. I think he's washed up and past his prime. Some people might come at me for saying that, but no, I don't think he's a difference maker anymore, man. I really don't.
No, I definitely agree with you there. He's coming off a major injury. He didn't play in 2021. I think 2020 he got injured, whatever the case may be. He's 38, 39. He's up there in age. But the Yankees offered him $25 million, which once again, with the offseason moves, I don't understand at all. Doesn't make sense. Let's offer, money to pass their primes. We go into this, and then I could probably reflect on my ranting. What are some roster? Obviously, you mentioned first base. I have in my mind what some competition is for the Yankees. And obviously, we could do like roster predictions or whatever next week. What are some roster competitions going on right now for the Boston Red Sox?
Well, first base is the big topic right now. And really, there's not much competition going on. It's more, where are we going to plug and place these guys? I've seen interviews with Jackie Bradley and Alex Verdugo. By the way, the Red Sox recently, as a couple minutes ago, lost to the Orioles, their second loss of the spring training, 8-5. Ryan Fitzgerald had a big home run. Fitzy, we call him over there. Fitzy had a big home run. But first baseman's going to be interesting. Like you said, I think Bobby Dahlbeck takes the spot, no question about it. He's young, he's powerful, he's got some speed, he's more athletic. Travis Shaw has the experience. But Bobby D is going to take the infield hit, and he's a fan favorite. I think that's big, as with a lot of talent around that team, with Jackie Bradley coming back. JD Martinez at the DH. Verdugo's a fan favorite. Bobby Dahlbeck just fits in really well. So I don't think that's going to be much of a competition at all, as long as he keeps, especially if he keeps swinging a hot bat in spring training. The other question is catcher with Christian Vasquez and Kevin Plawecki. I like Kevin Plawecki a lot. It seems like he doesn't have that clutch factor like we talked about earlier with Christian Vasquez. It just seems, I think Christian Vasquez hit about 250, 255 last year, and that's all I want from my catcher. You mentioned it with Higashioka, and who's the other guy?
It's Rob Brantley, then it's Rortvedt also as well.
Okay, yeah. 255 for me is good, especially when you're hitting clutch bombs as a catcher. Again, it reminds me a lot of Christian Arroyo with the bat, who he had a lot of clutch home runs, a big clutch grand slam in Atlanta last year for us. But those are the two positions I can think of right off the bat. The bullpen is going to be a whole different animal, a lot of plug and place there as well. But I think it's going to come together pretty well. It's going to be Christian Vasquez starting at catcher, Bobby Dahlbeck at first. And we're one of those clubs that doesn't have a lot of competition. I know the Yankees more than others have competitions at some positions, but we're set. We're trying to go on a championship run, and that's very obvious that we're stepping on the gas pedal. It's clear.
Now, I haven't done too much research into this guy, and obviously I believe he is the top prospect for you guys. Where's Jeter Downs right now? Could he possibly make the roster in a backup role, or is he going to stay wherever he is? Are they in a rush to get him to the big leagues? What's the story with him?
Well, it was a rush for the fans when we first signed Trevor Story. Like I said, I posted a video about it. There's a question if Devers is out, are we going to trade him? Does a team want Rafael Devers? But it looks like we're keeping him, and he's going to start third. So I don't think there's a big rush on Jeter Downs coming up to play short. He's not very versatile. I don't think he can play any other positions. He's good with the bat. He's got speed. He's athletic. But Xander Bogaerts is our veteran shortstop right now. He hasn't slowed down at all. Hitting big home runs in the postseason last year. And like one big one to center field, as you remember. But yeah, like I said, the roster is set, and I know it's hard to believe as another AL East team that doesn't have their shit together, but we got our shit together pretty well, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, and let me ask you before I go into some of my roster competitions as well for the Yankees, because I believe in some ways it's similar and all that stuff. As backup outfielders, backup infielders as well. Obviously, you mentioned Kevin Plawecki and Christian Vasquez and any other guys there. I think his name is Jarren Duran. I mean, I don't know much about him. Is he going to be trying to compete for a backup outfield spot? Like, what's the backup infield outfield looking like in your opinion right now?
Sure, Jarren Duran's one of those guys that's a utility player. He can play a lot of positions, and he came up last year big time in the outfield, in the playoffs as well. He's just a speedy guy. He's got, I think, the highest speed in all the prospects in the entire MLB, and he came and made a big effect last year. I don't think he's afraid of the big moment, but like I said, we got a lot of moving parts out there with Verdugo and Kike and Jackie Bradley and JD Martinez. I think he's going to compete for a backup spot, but it's not much. He's not going to see much of the field, I don't think. Same with Jeter Downs. But once there's a move, look for those guys to be the next. I mean, they're the next faces of this franchise. There's no question about it. I don't think they're going anywhere. But right now, the veterans are leading the squad for sure.
Yeah, and what you told me 2 weeks ago about Devers and him possibly being traded. It seemed like at the time maybe he was a candidate to go to a National League team, because you said he wasn't great defensively, and that obviously, once again, it opened the hole for a lot of different players to go to the National League, be DHs. Like Gary Sanchez, he's gonna catch. Actually, yeah, he is gonna catch, because they traded Garver away, they traded Rortvedt away. In an interesting set of moves. By the way, Houston actually did sign Verlander, so that's going to be an interesting team. It's going to be an interesting team, but obviously I'll see for myself on the 25th. But But Sanchez is gonna catch. I feel like he might get some DH time depending on who they have as the backup catcher. Luke Voigt obviously went to the National League. Nelson Cruz went to the Nationals in one of their biggest moves. So I'm surprised there wasn't a market for Rafael Devers. I mean, he's a good power hitter. I'm just surprised that there wasn't a market at all. Now, what would make sense, and shout out to my guys at NYYST, they do a little game called Smarter Yankees. And here's a smart thing that could happen. And obviously, you talking about your team in which, okay, Jeter Downs could come up in this situation if Devers is moved, or whatever the case may be. So here's how something would make sense. And now let me explain a little bit of context as well. The Yankees have a shortstop prospect that a lot of people forget. They talk about Volpe. He hasn't hit Double-A yet. Oswald Peraza. Nobody talks about him. He's got great numbers on the bases, a lot of stolen bases. He does strike out a lot, but he hits for average. I think he had, 296 in all levels last year. I'll pull up his stats. But he's got the tools to be ready. And there are a couple of players, especially within the last couple of years, who have made the transition, not from AAA to the major leagues, but Double-A to the major leagues. So he's a candidate for that. And he's also very good defensively. So last year in the minors, he hit 18 home runs, 58 RBIs, 38 stolen bases, 297 batting average. Let's see how many times he did strike out. He struck out 111 times. Once again, I go by the motto of, okay, if you hit for average, if you hit home runs, if you get hits overall, I don't have a problem with you striking out at least over 100 times because you're putting the ball in play, not like Joey Gallo and all this other stuff. But he's the forgotten prospect, and he's, I believe, ready. Now, obviously, there's the case of where could you put him. Here's my ideology, and of course, it's smarter Yankees, and it would be smart because the Yankees wouldn't do it. Put Stanton in left field because he's just statistically better when you have him in left field. Obviously, not sitting down on the bench every half inning. You have him in left field. You have Gallo transition to center field. For some reason, he's scared of playing center field. I don't know why. He has the range. And if you can't offer anything offensively other than home runs and walks, then guess what? You're going to be playing center field. But we don't have that type of manager. We don't have that type of front office to push him to that position. And for the fact that Aaron Hicks is still the center fielder for some reason, I have zero fucking expectations for that guy this year. I mean, what was it? A few nights ago, I think it was Wednesday night. I think they played the Orioles. They beat the crap out of them. I think the final score was 8-1 or 6-1. There was a fly ball to center field. I mean, they were just standing there like ducks, Gallo and Hicks, just watching it play off the wall. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, prime Aaron Hicks with a good manager could actually play that. And it's not like, oh, it bounced off the wall and you have to play it off the wall. No, he could have actually got it. So Hicks is not that player anymore, and I don't think he wants to be, and that's, once again, the problem. So Gallo, in my ideal situation, would transition to center field. Then Judge stays in right field. You could have infield of Rizzo, LeMahieu, shortstop Kiner-Falefa. I don't know how many years of control the Yankees have with him, obviously, with the Volpe situation and stuff like that. Then your third base, Josh Donaldson, make him the designated hitter, and put Peraza at third. But once again, that's smarter Yankees. That's smart. The Yankees wouldn't do that. And Peraza's flexible. A lot of different, prospect scouts and all that stuff will say that he can transition to third base. So once again, I don't see the problem with that. But it is what it is in that situation. Now, in terms of roster competition, another thing that's smarter Yankees is that we have a prospect by the name of Estevan Florial. And his talents have been wasted. His prospect value has been wasted. He was supposed to be this high-touted prospect, and then last year he came up, and the year before he came up, didn't really have much of a role. They sent him down for I don't know who. He was doing really good in the big leagues, hitting like 300 within the first few couple at-bats. I would take him, and the Yankees re-signed Tim LeCastro, who's coming off an ACL injury that he had in July, so I don't know how advanced the rehab is. You could literally just have him as an Estevan Florial as your utility outfielder. Then try to move him and do whatever you want to do. Have him as your utility outfielder. And don't waste the spot on Tim LeCastro. Don't waste the spot on Ender Inciarte. Don't waste a spot on some of these other guys. Go with your youngin and Estevan Florial. And, how can the trade value get any worse at this point? So at least put him in a formidable role for right now. Now, backup infield, I believe, is going to be very interesting because you already have your starting four. You have Donaldson, you have Connor Falefa, you have LeMahieu, you have Anthony Rizzo. And I think it's very stupid of the Yankees to consider splitting time with Gleyber and LeMahieu for two reasons. You could have traded Gleyber for anything to a rebuilding team, put him in a package with one of the prospects you got from the Padres, Justin Lang. You could have traded the both of them with a couple more prospects or maybe Davey Garcia or whoever. You could have traded them to Oakland for Olsen or a starting pitcher or a catcher. But $15 million a year for someone who's going to be splitting time with Gleyber Torres and DJ LeMahieu. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. But obviously, that's a smarter Yankee situation. So obviously, Gleyber Torres will be one of those backup infielders, and he's only going to play second base. That's his position. That's what they've committed him to. In terms of LeMahieu now, he can play all over. He can play a little bit of third base. I don't like that idea. Someone suggested shortstop. I don't like that idea. First base, he can play. That's not his natural position, second base. And you really don't have anybody other than those five. So you need about 6 or 7. Now, I will admit, Tyler Wade, I did not like him when he was here. Provided almost nothing, but occasionally would do some good things defensively, and he really played all over the infield except first base, and he played some outfield as well. Wasn't too good at it. That's where you bring in Miguel Andujar. You could also bring in Peraza. And you could also bring in a guy who played for the Red Sox once upon a time, Marwin Gonzalez, who hit a home run today. 2-run shot, believe it or not. So
he's a good ball player, man. He's still talented. He's past his prime a little bit, but those veteran guys are good.
As someone said it, I would have liked the Donaldson signing and the Gonzalez signing 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Exactly. So, 5 years ago,
yeah. It gets really interesting there. So I don't think they're going to call up Peraza, but I feel like there's a rush where, 2 weeks good in AAA, you're going to come right up. But Gonzalez, I feel, has a chance to make this roster. He has to probably show some stuff defensively. And then Torres, once again, I mentioned, Peraza, Andujar. I hate what they're doing with him. I really hate what they're doing with him. The last 2 years, and his trade value has just deteriorated because Cashman likes to hug prospects. He should have traded him respectfully after the 2019 season, which was the year after he almost won Rookie of the Year, lost to Shohei Ohtani. Because he almost had no role in 2020. Once you found out that Urshela was the answer at third base offensively and defensively, you said, you know what? We're going to go out there. Andujar, you're not the answer. But he didn't do that. They didn't trade him. And now we're stuck with him. We don't know what to do with him. So it might be another situation like Clint Frazier where we just release him for peanuts and Cracker Jack. Not even that. We don't release him for anything. But what they're trying to do these last 2 years is trying to make him into a fucking left fielder. He's not natural like that. If he's not good at third base, how good is he going to be in left field? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And, they had, for one point last season, they actually had Clint Frazier and Andujar as the left fielders with Gardner mixed in. I'm like, is this team serious or not? But those are...
It's Boone. It's Boone. I'm telling you, it all starts from the top, obviously with Cashman, but Boone, he looks like he just cares about himself, man. He's an idiot. I'll go out there and say it.
He's a puppet, front office.
He is 100%. He doesn't run that team at all. He doesn't hold them accountable. He doesn't run that team at all. The New York Yankees are under so much pressure in New York that it doesn't work like that. You can't be best friends with your players. You got to hold those guys accountable. And you see him stick up for him when he comes to yelling umpires. But at that point, it just seems like he is over the top, getting his head is too big. And it's not even sticking up for his guys anymore. But he's got to start holding them accountable. I don't know when he's going to realize, if ever.
Yeah, and he literally, obviously, the savages in the box thing. Then they became, as my one friend put it, pussies in the box. And then he literally said 2 years later, which was last year, oh, well, the umpire ejected me. Kind of thought it was bullying. Like, you're 40-some-odd years old.
He's soft, man. You can go up there and spit in his face, but he can't bully you up a little bit. You're bullying him all game. tell them you got to
I
be
mean,
fucking better, all this stuff. No, you got to be fucking better. You got a losing baseball squad.
that's just a weak mentality. It
Yeah.
really is. With that being said, my last topic was lineup projections, but we could save that for next week.
Yeah.
With that being said, Sox, final thoughts.
Yeah, episode 2, success, man. I appreciate everybody joining us. It's gonna be getting better and better every single week, man. Like Big Blue said last week, there's not another duo out there that's doing a Yankees Red Sox podcast. We're talking Yankees, Red Sox, AL East, rest of the MLB. We are even talking to some of the other sports, NBA, NFL tonight. It's gonna get bigger, badder, and better. And just like this MLB season, we're gonna have a lot of fun. So opening day, I'll be live. April 7th against the Yankees. Alex will be at that game. Maybe he'll join us from section 235 and tell us how it is watching the Yankees get shelled by the Red Sox. Appreciate everybody joining us. Your final
I've been
thoughts,
given
Big
that
Blue.
comment a few times today. You're gonna be like, oh, I like a couple people told me, oh, you're gonna go see the Red Sox beat the Yankees by a score of 10-2. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I honestly
Hopefully.
don't doubt that in a way. It would have been worse if Donaldson and Judge weren't playing. I mean, that it would have been at least like 13-2, something like that. But appreciate you guys. Obviously, this is what we're gonna do from now on. We're gonna go on both channels. With the way we're setting this up, I like the stuff we have going on here. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Subscribe to both channels. We're both active as hell. Obviously, Sox has big beat reactions. I know he has. He had a video, or he has a video coming out soon. Which one is that, by the way?
We have a bunch coming out. We have Muse coming out. Compliance by Muse coming up. The new single.
Yeah. So Evan, I don't know if you got the link. I know you just said. I don't know if you contacted me on Twitter, but what was I gonna say? With that being said, if you want to contact me on Twitter, or if you got the link here, that was for the NYY News TV Day. That's gonna be big, June 25th. Once again, subscribe to both channels. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back next week, next Thursday night, and it's gonna be prediction time. From that, it's gonna be 1 week till opening day. I can't wait. So we'll see you guys next time. Peace, and enjoy the outro, which is also the intro. We'll see you later.